Hello everyone, this article came 2 weeks ago and I didn't make a video about this when it came out because if I posted a video every time somebody posted a clickbait article on the internet, I would have, I don't know, 2000 subscribers by now. So yes, it's a good opportunity to subscribe to this channel for less clickbait videos about pop culture. So there is this article that came out from Full Circle that says that Marvel Studios is considering making Professor X and Magneto people of color in X-Men Reboot, exclusive, on September 12th, 2019. Yes, 17 days ago, 2 weeks ago. And as you can see, this is one of those videos where we go through an article and see a ton of ads nobody's paid for. So if you want me to be paid for showing ads in my videos, please subscribe. I would appreciate that. Never mind that. Let's read this article that makes no sense about why we should believe it. It says that the X-Men could have a unique twist to them when Marvel Studios blah 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 reboot. Kevin Feige and other people involved with the production are considering having people of color portray both Magneto and Professor X in the MCU. Full Circle Cinema has learned. Okay, and then you can see where I bought some of my equipment, and never mind that. Okay, while this change wouldn't alter much for Charles Xavier, who was born in New York to a wealthy family, it may lead to Marvel Studios taking some liberties with Eric Lesnar's origin. That's quite a few stuff to unpack here. Okay, I can get why Charles Xavier could be a person of color if he was born in New York to a wealthy family, or even if he could be born to a working class family and study, be a world-renowned scientist by his 30s, and make himself an authority, and maybe get some money out of his work from donations and stuff. And yes, you can make him a person of color. I mean, he was. Listen, X-Men was made in the 60s, and by then both Magneto and Xavier were in their 40s. If you were a wealthy, educated person back in the 60s, you were probably white. If we move the X-Men to the mid to 20s, God, we call 20s. We're old. Okay, never mind that. So yes, if we move, let's say, the X-Men to 2025, then Xavier and Magneto were probably born, if we want to retain their ages. When you adapt a property to a new era or another medium, you have to make some changes so that you keep some core characteristics of those characters and ideas behind the setting, and you adapt them so they can fit the new medium or the new era. If you want to make Xavier a wealthy scientist with authority, yes, he can be black or Asian or Hispanic. Actually, with the name Xavier, you can make him Charles Javier, and he's a Hispanic very easily. You can have the change match. But yes, he can be born in the 80s, study, become a scientist, do some work with the Organization for Civil Liberties, maybe be an expert and a renowned figure in the civil rights movement, and then he could easily, when superpowered people started coming out in the Marvel universe back in 2012, where everybody saw the Avengers and fight in New York, he could easily migrate for civil rights to inclusion of superpowered beings because he was a mutant. And that was a way for him to make other mutants who were coming along in the Marvels. Yes, I'm making a lot of assumptions on how the mutants can fit right into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is ongoing as a 10-year history, 12-year history by now. By then, to have a 17-year history, almost 20 years when the X-Men come out for Phase 5. So he understood that other people like him could be born, and it was a good idea to try to help them adjust with humanity. He could see humanity fearful of superpowered beings, not just mutants, especially if he was in the civil rights movement. So yes, you can make him a person of another ethnicity, not a wasp guy, but you just need to find the proper actor. That's all, in my opinion. You can have different ethnicity for Xavier. Magneto, though, Magneto is another totally different situation, because the core concept of Magneto is we have this guy who was a victim of persecution, of genocide, in his 20s. He lost his family, his parents, his wife, children, etc. He was persecuted, and as soon as he got his mutant powers, he understood that he's going to be persecuted again, because people are bound to be afraid of mutants. So he goes on a radical path. He fights against humanity as a mutant because of his trauma. Actually, I was discussing this with some other people in real life, and somebody told me that the defining moment for Magneto was this X-Men issue from the 80s that I cannot remember right now. Magneto tries to terrorize the world in order to make them disarm themselves. The X-Men try to fight him, and at some point he almost kills Kitty Pryde. And when when Magneto sees that she's wearing a Star of David, he realizes that, hey, I went too far. I became what I was afraid of. I almost killed this Jewish girl. And that creates a great on and off again redemption arc for Magneto, which went on for, I don't know, 30 years or something. I haven't kept track of X-Men comics for quite some years right now. I'm planning to start reading the Hickman run when it comes out on trade paperback, because everybody's excited about this comic book, and I can understand that it will be good. It seems to be good, and the X-Men really need a reboot, and I would like to see the MCU movies to create this conflict between species as an ongoing story. I would like to see both Magneto and Xavier work together, at least in the beginning, when people are not yet afraid of the mutants, where they train a school of superpowered people, and then when they have to fight against bigots, Magneto goes haywire and tries to fight them back, fight fire with fire, and Xavier is not, because he understands that violence solves nothing. It only perpetuates a struggle. That's very interesting for me to see. I would like to see an X-Men movie from Marvel, the first X-Men movie, not to be a X-Men versus Magneto movie again. I would like to see some other villain. I would like to see, I don't know, Mr. Sinister. I think that the movies were pretty much setting up Mr. Sinister sequel with some Easter eggs, especially in Deadpool 2. I wouldn't like to see yet another God Loves Man Kills rendition of X-Men. For now, we've had way too many of them. Let's do something different with X-Men next time, in my opinion. The main issue is that Magneto should be born in the early 80s. He should lose his family, be a victim of persecution between 95 and 2005 in a real-world genocide that fits the timeline for this X-Men, and the article says that you can have an 100-year-old Magneto. I know there's a lot of stuff in this article that definitely not reliable. It sounds like a clickbait article that tries to create an article out of health words and this kind of stuff. So yes, I wouldn't trust that. However, let's see the real world now, and let's go to everybody's favorite subject: genocides. Magneto over here, 1941 to 1945. Okay, so I went to Wikipedia. We had a list of genocides by death toll and put them chronologically. So we'll go to the early 90s. Actually, we'll start from the 80s. We have the Kurdish genocide in Iraqi, 1986, 1989. That means if we put Eric or whatever we'll call him. He's Kurdish, that means he's Middle Eastern and Muslim. And we have Somalia. That means that we have Black Magnetto, if we have him in Somalia 1998 to 1991. That's a great, it's a more feasible timeline. We have the Bosnian genocide. That's the closest we can get to Europe. It happened in Yugoslavia during the civil war there after the Iron Curtain fell, and that means that Magneto can be a Bosnian. That's closer to his original ethnicity, an East European Jew. However, Bosnians are Slavic and Muslims. Then we go to Burundi, that's in Africa. Rwanda, 1994. And this is one of the more notorious genocides, because we had whole 20% of a nation's population killed in a war, in a civil war, and also that makes Magneto an African. Then we go for Congo, that's 94, it's within our window, and then we'll jump forward to 2002 in Congo. Again, we have Pygmy Magneto. And then we have the Sudan, the Darfur. Yes, that makes Magneto African. And this is, I don't think that it's easy to use. Also, you can go further towards more contemporary tragedy. You can have Magneto as an Arab in Iraq and Syria. So our options is we can have an African Magneto, we can have a Slavic Muslim Magneto, and we can have an Arab Magneto. That's our three options for a real-world tragedy used as a backdrop for the X-Men. Of course, you can have Magneto as East European and just keep the details sparse, and not use any real-world genocide as a jumping point for the X-Men movies. So, yes, I wouldn't mind an African Magneto or a Middle Eastern Magneto. And Professor Xavier, it's down to the actor, to be honest. Yes, I think this article doesn't say much, but it's interesting to see how Magneto, who may not be called Eric, would be revamped for a modern adoption of X-Men. That would be really a challenge for anybody who does that. What's your opinion? If you went this far into the video, you can downvote me for being a bloody CW. You can subscribe and then not subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Or maybe remain subscribed if you're interested in videos like that, more critical about the tropes and not about outrage. And you can also share this article, maybe with a tagline like, "What the hell is this SJW talking about? Boo." And I'll see you again with another video. Goodbye.